Los Angeles Sheriff's deputies wrongfully arrested a journalist from KPCC. She identified herself clearly as she was covering a very small protest in front of a hospital where there were the two deputies who had been shot in an ambush. They were recovering in that hospital. Josie Hong, the reporter, was covering the protest, small protest that was taking place out front, and chaos ensued. The sheriff's deputies apparently didn't like the protest. Tempers were flaring. And before you know it, Josie Hong, a reporter for public radio station KPCC, was taken into custody during Saturday's demonstration outside the hospital. The department said that Hong didn't identify herself as a journalist and interfered with the arrest of a protester. But guess what? The sheriff's deputies were lying, because there were multiple videos, some of which were actually filmed by Hong herself, that showed that she identified herself as a reporter from KPCC several times. So you also see how insanely vicious and violent they are with her. There's several deputies on top of her as they're restraining her for no reason. But with that said, keep in mind what the deputies alleged. And here's a video that was taken by someone on the scene. It gives you kind of like a view from a little far away, but we have additional videos to share. So let's take a look at that. So that was the wrongful arrest of a journalist. That was excessive force, there's no question. And the sheriff's deputies absolutely lied about their reasoning in arresting her. And guess what? The LA County Sheriff has decided to defend the deputy's actions, even after all this evidence came out. Villanueva said Hong was too close to the deputies during the man's arrest, because they were arresting another man. I mean, she doesn't seem anywhere near someone else getting arrested. You have all those deputies focusing on her and pinning her to the ground. He claimed that's where she crossed the line from journalism to activism. He said he didn't know if the deputies heard her shouting, "I'm a reporter." But as you guys can see from that video, she's screaming from the top of her lungs to the point where a person filming from far away can pick up that audio. And he also says you have to have a certain level of responsibility as a journalist. Do your job, but do it at a safe distance where you're not interfering with the deputies doing their job. He says more, Cenk, but I wanted you to jump in.
So, first of all, no one makes up something as specific as "I'm from KPCC." So they knew she was a reporter. Like it's not like, hey, I'm from the New York Times or CNN. Trust me, big guy, right? No, I'm from a local station, KPCC, I'm a reporter. They know she's not making that up. My guess is they didn't arrest her despite the fact that she was filming. They arrested her because she was filming. And look, we'll see more videos. She don't look close to anyone there. And I have to confess that I believe a portion of their original report as well, the cops report. And that's silly of me, I should know better. They almost always lie in a situation where they can get in trouble. So I thought there was like this big scramble, and she was within that scrum, and she had the video camera, and she's taping because she's doing her job, and that's brave of hers, etc. And then when I see the video, there's nobody else around but like 1,000 deputies and her. And so, like, no, their initial explanation of the scene, as usual, was a preposterous lie.
A huge lie.
Yeah, and so look, guys, the thing is, the original story here evokes tremendous sympathy for the police, but they don't know how to just stop, right? So the two officers that are shot, everybody's heart goes out to them. Two young people, one of them has a 6-year-old kid and is a mom, etc. And they're bloody and you're all rooting for them and they're at the hospital. And then there's these terrible protesters who got out there and protest. I don't know who the hell they are, but that's a disastrous idea. So you have all the sympathy in the world for the police in this situation, and they go and ruin it by tackling a reporter and then lying about it for no reason, because it's just what they do.
And Cenk, you're right about how they knew she was a reporter, and one of the first things they did was snatch her phone and step on it. So in the next video, you can see a sheriff's deputy basically kick her phone. Let's take a quick look at that. And let's take a look at the next video because it gives you a sense of, from a more, from a closer angle, what the cops were like when they were arresting her. Yeah, so there was a lot of focus on the phone. She later posted a photo of her phone. It was broken. One of the cops stepped on it, probably hoping that no one else was recording the incident. And maybe that's why they thought maybe they can get away with lying about what actually happened. But these are people who, look, LA taxpayers spend a lot of money on settlements specifically tied to the sheriff's department. I wanna read you some of those stats real quick, and then we gotta go. But so of the 606 claims filed against the Los Angeles cops during the 2018 to 2019 fiscal year, 539 were against Los Angeles County Sheriff's Office, the Sheriff's Office, the authoritative arm of several law enforcement agencies, including the Los Angeles Police Department. 241 lawsuits were dismissed without any payments. But now let's get into the numbers. The county budgeted $148.5 million, where 91.5 million was paid to satisfy 16 judgments, including 16.3 million paid for 9 lawsuits against the sheriff's department and 240 settlements, according to the annual litigation cost report. That marks a 24% increase over the 73.7 million the county expended on judgments and settlements from the previous fiscal year, the report said. So they're just running wild, and they're basically acting as if they own the streets. They get to decide whether or not they get to carry out justice. They're being brutal with a journalist, several of them. And it's frustrating because you're right, Cenk, something awful happened to 2 deputies. Hopefully they make a speedy recovery. Hopefully they're gonna be okay. And they needlessly jump to conclusions about the suspect and what the motive is. We don't even know who the suspect is. The suspect is still out at large. But they've decided to focus on lying about a journalist that they were brutal with, while also focusing on how LeBron James is somehow miraculously to blame for what happened. It's insane.
Yeah, stepping on the phone was not the bug, it was the feature. So that seems like the reason why they tackled her and arrested her in the first place. And so, look, guys, the Compton Sheriff's Office, according to other police officers, the allegation is that there is a gang within it called the Executioners, and they get tattoos with a skull and a Nazi helmet after they execute a civilian. So those allegations are so outrageous, I still can't believe them. But it's made by another cop. They settled a case where that issue came up, whether the executioners actually killed someone, and the county immediately settled for a large settlement. These settlements are out of control. They doesn't come out of the police departments or the sheriff's office budget at all. The cops have immunity, they can't be personally sued. They make us taxpayers pay for all those lawsuits. And so look, this is part of the realization that we're having also with the Trump situation where you find out, 42% country was always against science, was never in favor of battling racism, and just like believes in this madman, right? And in the case of the police, now we find out, and we're naive. And look, it's true. Minorities were more affected by this, and they've been living with it forever. And it's all of our fault and our shame, honestly, including me, that we didn't recognize the depth of the problem earlier. For God's sake, man, what is going on inside these police departments? Who's signing up to be these cops, et cetera? And so I don't know if that was related to the shooting or not related to the shooting. We have no idea that. The police haven't solved this. But anyway, I bring all that up for one last point, which is how many stories have we covered now? Dozens, maybe even hundreds, where we found out later that either cops or prosecutors had totally invented evidence to put people away for life, give them the death penalty, full well knowing they didn't do it. And so it's hard to not lose faith in people in positions of authority here, and it doesn't mean that you go and do the violence that we abhor. No, we've got to stick to democratic principles. But if progressives win these elections and their mayors and their executive officers, et cetera, they're the DA, then you've got to take action. And you've got to actually protect the community, and you can't be scared of thugs in office. You just can't. So if you're worried about, oh my God, what is the sheriff gonna say about me? It's cowardice. You have to act politically to bring real change for all of the citizens, not just some of the citizens.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.